Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Happy Friday, Junior, as I like to say. It's good to see you all. I'm going to give folks a couple of moments to trickle in here. Welcome. If you have been to any of our previous vision sessions this week, welcome back. If you are just joining us for the first time or super excited to share the new Bonterra vision with you all on today's webinar, if you're here to learn a little bit more specifically about our impact management solution category, you are in the right place. My name's Amanda DeFonte. For those of you who I haven't seen yet, I'm our Senior Manager of Webinars and Events here at Bonterra. And I just want to take a couple of quick moments to give you all some housekeeping notes before I turn it over to the stars of today's show. First and foremost, we are recording today's session, and we will be sending you all this recording in about a week. It will come to your email, so no need to do anything extra. It will also include the previous two sessions. So if you're curious about either of those two solution categories, you'll be able to learn about all of them in that follow-up. So be on the lookout for that next week. We'll be taking Q&A through this session. We'll be working on questions at the end, but we encourage you to put your questions in that Q&A box throughout the entire session as they come up. We'll get to as many of them as we can, but we might not have time for all of them, but please put them in there as we'll follow up with you on an individual basis as needed. So super excited to engage with you there. And I will stop there and turn it over to the stars of today's show, who you are all here for, the vision behind Bonterra. We are joined by Scott Brighton, our CEO. So Scott, I will let you kick us off. Thank you so much and take it away.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Amanda. And I'll start with an introduction of myself, if we can bump to the next slide. So I have been with Bonterra now for 5 months. My background is in technology. I've been in and around software most of my life, but I have a familial relationship to the social good world in that my wife is a longstanding executive director of a local nonprofit down here in Austin. So joining Bonterra was really a dream for me in its ability to combine technology with social good. Over the first 5 months, I've spent a vast majority of my time talking to and listening to customers, hearing about what's important to you, what's working well about the relationship with Bonterra, what's not working well. And all of that is providing the fodder for what we're going to share today, which is first, the broader vision for Bonterra overall, and then specifically the vision for one of our category of products that we're calling impact management. Before I do that, on the next slide, some of you may have more connection to your individual product than you do Bonterra, and that's because Bonterra is a relatively new brand. The company was formed in 2022 from the combination of a series of best-in-class social good software products. And today, we are the second largest social good software company in the world. We have about 1,000 employees, over 20,000 customers. Roughly half of the Fortune 100 uses our sort of corporate philanthropy solutions. We have a portfolio of 20 plus products. Nearly $20 billion in giving flows through the company, and we are proud to service over 16,000 nonprofit organizations as part of our customer base. On the next slide, interestingly, we're a private company, and we are owned by a series of investors that are focused on something called impact investing. And the principle behind impact investing is that they're not just seeking a return on their money, they're also seeking a return on social. And so all of the investors have expectations about that Bonterra, not only generate a return on investment, but also at equal priority, make good in the world. And Sir Ronald Cohen, who is the head of that investment fund, is considered the father of social impact investing, was an Egyptian immigrant to the United Kingdom, and has championed this concept. And we are proud to be representing all of that as part of Bonterra. Okay, so let's jump into our vision for the company. And I'm going to start big picture and sort of talk about the way we see the world and how that's framing where we're going. And then we're going to dive specifically into impact management. So the headline, as we see it, is the social good ecosystem, frankly, has something of an existential problem. If you look at total giving in the United States, and when I say total giving, this is the combination both of monetary donations as well as the economic value of volunteerism. That number is about $620 billion a year. And while that's a large number, it candidly pales in relation to the investment required to address some of society's most important problems that many of you are working on. In fact, if you look on the chart on the left, just at the investment required to attack three things: climate change, world hunger, and US child poverty, it's nowhere near as much. It's an order of magnitude less. And then if you look at the growth rate of that giving, it's been stuck at roughly the growth rate of US gross domestic product for nearly 70 years. And so it's bumping along at 2 to 2.5%. And at that rate of growth, it's going to take a really, really long time for that 620 billion to approach a level of driving meaningful societal change against these really big problems facing humanity. Next slide. If you take a shorter horizon, there are trends that are sort of equally alarming, which is that giving and volunteerism are both seeing signs of decline. The participation rate, the percentage of people in the United States that are giving annually, is down from roughly 2/3 to less than half over the last 20 years. The percentage of US adults volunteering in any given year is down from nearly 1/3 to roughly 1/4. And donor retention, the percentage of people that give consistently year after year, is also in decline from roughly half to now approaching 40%. And so there's some statistics that suggest that things are kind of getting worse, right? And the impact of this on the next slide is, as I've heard from many of you in my conversations, is 68% of you are reporting an actual increase in the demand for the services that you are trying to provide, right? That's a vast majority of you, while roughly half of you are reporting struggles in delivering those services, principally due to resource shortages. And obviously what we just talked about with respect to declining giving and declining volunteerism trends are related to that. So this is sort of the dynamics in the industry as we see them. And as we've been poking around underneath that to sort of understand what's happening, we've sort of centered our investigation into the concept of trust. So let's get on to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about what we mean by that. Our contention, and this is what we hear from donors, both anecdotally when we talk to our large foundation customers, our large corporates, and also what they report in surveys, is that trust is the center of the social good ecosystem. In the Giving Experience study, it was ranked as the #1 issue. Relationships were ranked as #2, which is arguably a dimension of trust. 81% of donors have suggested they need to know a great deal about a nonprofit before they choose to support it, and 78% have suggested nonprofits must earn my trust before I support them, right? So what we were trying to get underneath of, okay, what is meant by trust? And our definition is it's really sort of helping donors or volunteers answer two fundamental questions. When I want to make an impact on a particular cause in a particular community, where and how should I give to make that impact? Where's the best place, right? How can I answer that confidently? And the second question that we believe is sort of part of this trust equation is, once I do give or once I do volunteer, what actually happened? What impact was achieved by virtue of my giving? And those are the two questions that we believe donors are asking that relate to strengthening trust. And so if you look then a level deeper at those two things, there's some other data points that suggest that there's a growing sense of uncertainty, which is impacting trust. And that in turn is having a relationship, we believe, to this declining participation rate and declining volunteerism, right? You're seeing, number one, an explosion in the number of nonprofits, right? We're up nearly 50% over the last 20 years. And recall that massive growth in the number of nonprofits is happening even while the growth in giving and volunteerism is very slow, right? So you have more nonprofits, and the implication, there are some positives to that, right? Because some of these nonprofits are now focusing on very specific issues and very specific communities and servicing that. But the downside is the large number of these nonprofits creates donor confusion, right? That can undermine trust. And then the second dimension related to that second question I asked earlier is most nonprofits recognize that being able to report impact outcomes to donors or in general is important, right? 80% have said it's a top priority, but less than 20% feel equipped to be able to do it today. And so, you put all these different pieces together, and what you're seeing in terms of reported level of trust is a pattern of year over year decline that is happening at the same time that we're seeing declining participation rates and declining volunteerism. And so we believe there's a causal relationship there. So on the next slide, if we sort of sum up all of this, we believe what we're sort of caught in here is something of a vicious trust cycle related to those two questions that we're defining as sort of the essence of trust. So on the question of where and how should I give my time and resources, it is difficult. And I hear this when I talk to donors and I talk to foundations and I talk to corporates. There isn't any easy way for them to find the right social good organization to match an individual employee's or the large foundation's need to drive something specific, a specific cause in a specific community. It is not clear what the best way to do that is, right? That's what we mean by low visibility. And then sort of compounding that is, we would argue that technology, nonprofit CRM, hasn't candidly served the industry well, in that it's created something of a disjointed, impersonal experience. Frequently we find that volunteers are treated separately from donors or treated separately from sustainers, even though frequently that's can be the same person, right? And as a person, I want to have a relationship with that social good organization, right? If I give a very large gift and then I'm then receiving digital marketing for very small gifts, it feels like I have no relationship. And I don't believe that is the fault of nonprofits. I believe that is the fault of technology's approach to helping them build relationships. So that's the issue we see on the where should I give my time and resources. I don't have a relationship with the nonprofit, and it's not easy to find the right one. And then on the other side, what happens once I give time and resources is this sort of idea of unclear impact, right? I can't get, a number of corporates have told me, I can't get metrics in the language I need them that would survive an audit. And so I can't work with this particular nonprofit, right? And they all want to, right? They all tell me they want to. They want to work more deeply in communities with smaller nonprofits, but most of them are working with, a small handful of very large ones. So we think all these things in combination are creating a vicious trust cycle. And so as we think about what Bonterra is focused on, it's effectively turning that into a virtuous trust cycle. And so our array of products are going to be focused on attacking these four things, right? Number one is increasing the visibility of social good organizations to donors, foundations, corporates, other givers, as well as increasing the visibility of grant opportunities and other things for social good organizations, creating something of a marketplace for social good. The second thing we're going to be focused on is enabling you to better build, strengthen, sustain relationships and create a coherent experience for that donor or volunteer that represents all the different roles that they could play, right? Whether I'm a volunteer one day, whether I'm a donor another day, whether I'm a sustainer for a period of time, a coherent view of that person as a human to enable you to build a more and a less transactional relationship. And then obviously we want to provide tools that enable efficiency so that the good people that work within social good are spending their time on causes and not spending their time on administration or, God forbid, doing data entry or working with tools, low value things like that. It's our responsibility to solve that. And then finally, enabling clear, measurable impact results. And we think if we focus on driving and innovating around these four things across our entire portfolio of products, we can make a real impact. And so on the next slide, Bonterra today, as we were sort of assembled, really operates in three separate spaces. One is strategic philanthropy, which is a set of products that corporates, foundations, large donors, and funders use to manage giving. We operate in impact management, the subject of today's webinar, which is social good organizations managing resources and programs out in the field. And we operate in the third category, which is technology that helps social good organizations manage relationships with donors and volunteers. Today, all of those, candidly, are treated sort of separately. But where we want to go, back to the bigger picture and our vision on the next slide, is bring all of this together into something of a social good ecosystem. And in this world, our impact management solutions, which measure results and impacts out in the field, will flow up into our donor and fundraising and engagement solutions so that impact can be seen and visible to donors. Social good organizations will see all of the foundations and corporates we're working with who are looking to give money away, and they will understand the different opportunities for them to take advantage of that. And similarly, our donors, our supporters will get visibility into all the 16,000 plus social good organizations that we work with. And so this flow of information across our different products into this broader ecosystem, we believe creates that visibility I was talking about, creates that ability to report impact, will drive that efficiency. All of the things that we were looking to do as part of our bigger vision. So this is where we're going overall. And we believe if we do this, the thing that we talk about internally as sort of our big, hairy, audacious goal is this idea of 3% by 33. We talk about this all the time inside the walls of Bonterra, which is, can we move the size of US giving from the 2 to 2.5% of GDP that it's at today and has been for 70 years to 3% over 10 years, which would in effect, on a real basis, double the size of the giving pie, which would truly be transformative. That's what we're working towards. That's the bigger vision of Bonterra. That's how all these piece parts fit together to drive trust to make this happen. So naturally raises the question of, for those of you here today, how does this relate to case management, which we're now calling impact management? And so I would like to turn things over to my good friend, Tom, to introduce himself and take it away on where Bonterra is taking impact management.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Really appreciate it. And hey, everybody, great to be able to meet you all. If I haven't met you in the past, my name is Tom Esposito. I lead our impact management product team here at Bonterra. So when I say impact management, that encapsulates all of the case management tools that we have at Bonterra. And when we think about the hard work that's really being done across our case management tools and our impact management in general, right? The managing of programs, it's working with participants that are receiving services, it's tracking progress, it's making real change in people's lives. We want to make sure that what we're doing is we're elevating beyond just thinking about managing cases. What we want to do is we want to think about the impact that you and your programs are creating in your communities, right? That's the same impact that you want to be sharing with your funders and supporters. And that's why from here forward, you're going to hear me talk more about impact management and where we want to be able to drive this. A couple of quick just level setting as we talk through this. I want to make sure that I'm talking through our broader vision of what we're thinking about the future of impact management. That's what we're going to talk about today. And so just as just to level set, this is not going to be a roadmap conversation. So we're not going to be talking about like individual features or products. What we want to do is we want to share that one level up. We want to be able to share with you all what our vision for the future is. But also, second along the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be stopping at a couple of different points to be able to ask a few questions. These are going to show up to you all as polls. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're hearing from everyone about your experiences, get your feedback. I want to make sure that we're learning from all of you as much as possible as we continue to build and refine. And then also, if you are interested in more of the individual features, we are going to be having a poll at the very end around who wants to be able to be notified about our upcoming roadmap webinar. So stick around for that. I definitely know that many folks are very interested on that. So as we jump in, before we talk about us, what I first want to be able to talk about is what we're seeing across our industry, right? So I think at this point, we all can agree that even while technology evolved around us, social good organizations like yourselves, right, the nonprofits, the public sector, CBOs, community-based organizations are grappling with the mounting pressure to do more with less. And ultimately to be able to provide even more evidence on the outcomes or the results that your programs are creating. And so as we see through a number of studies that, social good orgs like yourselves are seeing just a huge increase in the demand for the programs that you're all offering, but not really a change in your team size, right? So what that's doing, that's creating that overall, extra stress on your organizations, right? You all need the right tools to be able to help you improve efficiency so that way you can manage and get, through to the outcomes that you need within those programs. Also, well, we know that a majority are considering, we heard about this, what Scott mentioned, which is that many of you, think of impact as a top priority. Few, I know, are able to measure it today. When we surveyed even our own customers on this at the end of last year to understand why, and what we heard were things that echo many of these studies, right? Which is that, the number one reason, there's just not enough time in the day, right? It's capacity. We need to make sure that we have, the time, the ability, the teams that can help with that. The second one that was the most common reason that we heard was, just not having the right data available or, feeling like you had the right tools. And so that's the kind of stuff that we want to be thinking about as we look forward into our vision. So what I'm going to do, like I mentioned, pausing a few points to be able to talk through polls. I want to pause here for just a second to hear from you all on if this is where you are feeling the most pressure. Are you feeling pressure in terms of needing help improving efficiency, right? The struggle with doing more with less. Are you needing help with proving impact, right? Making sure how you're facing challenges and measuring impact correctly or easily? And or is this a struggle with both? Cool. So I'm going to let this sit for just a second while I know that you all can take a second to give us some of this feedback. This is important learning as we go forward. All right. Also, what we're seeing is that dual pressure is, of being able to have really great programs, thinking about the efficiency, all of the work that you all need to be able to do, along with the impact that you all need to be able to show. There's a dual pressure that is just burning our nonprofit staff out, right? There is that risk of unmet efficiency goals, and that is risking meeting the ability to hit those funding requirements, right? Nonprofit staff, when we look at turnover, it's blazingly high at 19%, right? That is, showing me that the workforce is feeling overworked, right? They're under-resourced, and it's something that we want to make sure that we're understanding why and how we can help focus on that efficiency. But this is also especially true as the expectation for proof of impact is on the rise, right? We see that many social good organizations like yourselves just find it difficult to be able to take the time or to be able to show off that great work that your programs are doing. And when we see that 8 out of 10 funders want to see proof of impact, we know that that gap can undermine your ability to be able to secure more funding. We want to make sure that you are seeing that ability to show that to your funders, to your supporters, to the folks that we know want to be able to see this view. And then there's the real problem where there are too many nonprofits that are trying to do this on their own, right? And so there's that added pressure to try to figure this all out and to be able to figure out how you're going to be able to manage this within your own organization. And that pressure to create impressive impact metrics, things that you want to be able to highlight the work that that your organizations are doing. We worry that that can be creating more harm than good, right? What we see from numerous studies is that that organizations can be either afraid of sharing bad metrics, so they don't even start, or they focus on what might be easy to measure, but potentially less important, right? Or they are remaining focused on some of just the short-term results, right? The things that are easy to keep track of, like outputs or activities, but might not be giving really that true view of impact that we know that you want to be able to show. And we know that you all, feel like and know that your programs are being able to generate, right? So what we see is that SGOs we need a network to be able to reinforce collaboration, to reinforce best practices, and ultimately the long-term impact-driven thinking that we know we need as an ecosystem. We are convinced that more efficiency and better measurement is not going to come from new impact measurement tool sets. It's going to come from activating the network of like-minded social good organizations, that are on this call today that we know that we work with so many of, to be able to share and align on best practices and measurements that can really help drive the real outcomes on shared causes. So I'm going to move on to our second poll. I want to see how you all feel. I want to know, are you, strongly in agreement? How do you feel in terms of whether, in isolation, the pressure for impact measurement can create more harm than good within your organizations? So we're going to pause here for just a moment to make sure you all have a chance to be able to respond. This is all very valuable for us as we think through and we build this out. But as we see these mounting pressures, as we hear from many of you, and again, like I said, as we've done many of these surveys already in the past, and we think through each of these points, the need for greater organizational efficiency, the demand to better measure and communicate impact, and ultimately how valuable your network can be in helping you succeed. As we think through to our future vision, ultimately our vision for the future of our platform is to become the Peloton of program impact. What I mean by this, if you think about Peloton, they didn't just create a better exercise bike, right? They changed the home fitness industry. They combined incredible exercise equipment, the bike, with the ability to track and measure your success and ultimately connect you to a network of coaches and riders just like you to be able to motivate and support you as you reach your fitness goals, right? So as we think about what that means for us at Bonterra, this is exactly what we aim to bring to our impact management platform. We have case management tools that have long supported social good organizations like yourselves, with us at the forefront, right? However, like Peloton, we are not just trying to build incrementally better case management tools. We are building the only solution that brings case management, impact measurement, and a network of best practices and support into the same solution. This is something that we want to do by ultimately creating, more intuitive and powerful service delivery software that can help you ultimately better reach and achieve your goals of your programs. We want to make sure that we are also creating the most trusted best practice library, complete with service plans, assessments, reports, all of the things that you need to be able to better track everything that you are doing, all of the work that your programs are with, overall more confidence, right? We want to make sure that we're also helping to build better standardized impact measurement tools that enable that community baseline of comparisons and metrics and insights that are going to help highlight what's going well and also be able to help you uncover more areas for improvement. And ultimately, we want to make sure that it is easier for every one of you to better demonstrate the impact that your programs have. That way you can be able to share that to your funders, your supporters, everybody within your community that you need to make sure that know exactly the great work that your programs are doing. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into each one of these points one at a time because I'm really excited about this. I think this is going to be a great view for how we're looking forward. So first and foremost, we know how hard it is some days to even just catch your breath with everything that you have going on in your programs, right? This is why giving you the tools that help you increase your capacity is so critical. Our focus is to make sure that we are increasing overall program capacity, so that way you all have that time back to focus on what is really important, right? We want to make sure that we are evolving our very strong case management foundation to make this even better. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're improving this through more standard program functionality. Don't worry, we're not changing the flexible form or report features that I know you all love. That is still incredibly valuable. What we're seeing though is we're seeing so many customers that are building the same forms, the same reports, the same overall workflows over and over again. What we want to be doing is helping to streamline that experience. So that way you can start seeing more features and take advantage of those best practices and ultimately aim to keep you just from constantly recreating those wheels. We want to make sure that you are able to better streamline those workflows. We want to make sure that you are getting from the moment of starting your program to being successful in that program even faster. And that's going to happen by leveraging some of these best practices that we know that we're seeing across our community. We also make sure that we're continuing to build on the automation features that we know you all love, right? You think about this as our rules and alerts functionality, right? Or more of our workflows in general, right? So these are ways that we can help you improve just overall, so that way you don't have to go on and be worried about every next action. We can help with that automation, but we also, in this, is enhanced usability. We want to make sure that we're also finding just general ease of use ways to make your life just easier and more intuitive. So that way, again, you're not searching for that feature or you're not wondering why our software doesn't do X, right? That's all part of increasing capacity. And of course, with that last point, we don't want you spending your time tracking down your participants. We want to continue improving on our Connect participant portal. So that way you have a better direct connection into every one of your participants, right? So that way you can make sure that you are keeping your enrolled participants more engaged and ultimately helping you, every single day in terms of how you are communicating within your programs. Next, we want to help you better measure your program's impact. So what we mean by this, we are going to build on the functionality that we already have within our program enrollments and exits that we've released, most recently. What we want to make sure that we're doing is we're including better ways to help you track and measure progress towards your program's goals. We want to make sure that you have all of the features and functionality, all of the ability to connect in your participants, and all of the ability to better monitor how those programs are functioning. And to make sure that you have beyond just that, the reporting tools that you need, and the prescriptive analytics, right? The ways that you can be able to look and see how your programs are functioning. All of that comes with improving some of this program impact measurement framework. So that way you can, one, internally know how you're doing, but also I know how important it is to make sure that you are communicating those important results to your funders and supporters. We want to make sure that we're also making it easier so that way you can better communicate out all of the great work that is happening within your programs. Because being able to truly measure program impact, we know is hard work. That's why we want to make sure that you have the right tools and data to be able to make that even more simple. And of course, if you can measure it, you can improve it. Through our expansive network, what we want to make sure that we're doing is we're connecting you to like-minded social good organizations. Again, the nonprofits, the public sector agencies, the community-based organizations, the social good organizations like yourself that we know can help with ultimately sharing impact, right? Seeing collective impact within your community. We also want to make sure that with that, you're able to optimize your impact where we can, offering up more intelligent program recommendations where it makes sense, right? That we can show you the best practices that we're seeing within the network, that we can see within the community. That way you can better optimize how you are generating that impact. And of course, we want to make sure that you can seamlessly work with your community partners. We know that many of you are working today, largely without technology to be able to connect to those community partners. We want to make that even more seamless, even easier. That way we can help you discover, and your community can help you discover even more cutting edge evidence-based models and best practices. That's the kind of stuff that is going to help you not just be able to measure what you're doing, but be able to make it even better, right? To be able to improve the impact that your program is able to create. So these are the points that we were really excited about in terms of how we're going to help you better improve your overall program capacity, be able to help you better measure your program impact, and help you get to that point of increasing program impact. And ultimately, how do we know that we can build this future? Well, today we have over 3,400 active social good organizations on our platform, right? We have touched the lives of over 41 million participants across our case management products, right? This is stuff that we have been working with many of you all for years and years on to be able to build the ability to be able to get here, right? And as we think about the industry in general, we know that other tools might be focused on one side of the problem, right? Some are just building better bikes, or others are only building Fitbits, right? We believe only Bonterra is equipped to be able to bring this platform together and ultimately transform program impact. So what I want to be able to do now is I'm going to ask you a few more questions. I'm going to jump into a couple of polls, and I'd love to be able to hear from all of you. So based on what we've just walked through, I'd love to be able to hear how aligned you all feel in terms of our impact management vision, right? How does this fit the needs of your organization? Go ahead and wait here for a couple minutes because I do have a few more polls after this. All right, awesome. Really excited to be able to hear from you all. I want to be able to know, is this extremely aligned to what you're feeling, right? Is this very aligned somewhat? I definitely want to be able to make sure that we're hearing, how this is helping each of your different organizations as we look towards the future. Next, what I want to be able to ask you all is, now that we've talked through this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be helping align this to those features, to our roadmap, to everything that we are going to be building next year and beyond. So we are going to be hosting a webinar in January. And what we want to be able to know is how many of you all are interested in joining in on that one. I know many of you have probably joined our past webinar, our past roadmap webinars. We love being able to share out everything that we're building. So hopefully you all are just as interested as I am to be able to jump in January with me to be able to check out our roadmap webinar. Hopefully this is a very easy answer for you all to be able to jump in and hear what we have to say coming into next year. All right. And lastly, the last poll that I'm going to ask you all before we jump into Q&A is, we are going to be working on more of our overall product and service offerings. So what I'm interested in is how many of you would be interested in helping with feedback along this path, right? So as we look to the future, we want to make sure that we are building the best product and service offerings that we have, that we can. And we want to make sure that you all have a chance to be able to talk through and share some of your feedback on where you see some of our product packages, service offerings, what are things that you want to be able to see. So the first option here is if you want to be involved in giving us feedback on potential future product packages. The second one is, do you want to see more service offerings? You can think about that like our advanced support consultant packages, right? More services that we can be able to provide you, be able to help outside of the product. Or, of course, if you want to hear both, if you want to hear what's happening, or if you want to be able to help us with what's happening in product packages and help us with service offerings. So let us know and we will make sure that we can be reaching out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom and Scott, for sharing some of those visions for the larger Bonterra world and ecosystem, and specifically for this category. So I'll let that poll run for just one quick more moment, make sure everybody has a chance to answer how they want to collaborate with us, and then we'll jump into some questions. So thank you so much for submitting those again. If we don't get to them here today, we'll do our best to follow up with each of you after this session. So first and foremost, Tom, I know we kind of were thinking people would want to know a little bit more in depth about, the product or the platform, right? And I know we've got those roadmap webinars ahead, but can you share just a theme that I've seen across some questions here? Like, so what does this really mean? Is this a net new product or platform? Will Bonterra still offer the same level of case management functionality? Like, what can this group expect to see?
Yeah, great question. Yes. So this, again, what we talked about today is the vision for overall case management, right? This is not a net new product. This is not a net new platform. This is everything that we have been building on, right? So we're not moving away from any of our amazing case management products that we have today. We see this as more of an evolution, right? So it's not a change in direction. This is something that we want to make sure that we are evolving on or progressing on the same path that we've already been heading towards, right? So you can still trust everything that we have within our case management products today. This is a build on top of that. So no, really great question and definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing and maybe easing some minds of the audience members here. So thinking about like the vision specifically, I saw a question come in, just referring to, okay, let's take this a little bit deeper. So, a participant had mentioned, we would love to better measure our program impact so that we can use it in future impact reports. How can we make sure we're ready to take advantage of that in the future? And how does this vision align with that?
Awesome. Okay, great question. So as I did mention, we did roll out a newer feature over the past year or so that is more of our program enrollments functionality. So that is something that will allow you to better track enrollment into standardized programs. If you haven't checked that out yet, I recommend it. That is something that we want to be able to build on, so that way we can provide more of like the reporting that I mentioned, more of the better out of the box prescriptive analytics around what is the impact that's happening within your programs. So that's a great one to be able to jump into for sure. I would absolutely recommend checking out. If you're not familiar with that, reaching out to potentially your customer success or your account manager to be able to learn more, or always feel free to reach out and we can definitely get you down that path.
Perfect. Thank you so much for tackling that one. We've got time for a couple more here. I'm going to do, I call it like some form of hot seat coaching, where we've got some specific questions related to organizations here. So one question came in that it said, my funders require really strict data requirements that we currently use Bonterra for today. Does this change any of that? Should we be worried, or will we be covered in this vision?
Yeah, no. I totally understand. We are not changing how any of our customers are collecting reporting on the data as it stands today, right? We want to make sure that you're still able to hit all of the funding requirements that we know that you have. All this is building on top of that, right? This is helping to provide even better access to the ability to track the information that you are, right? So it's not about changing how your forms are set up or your reports are set up. It's about providing even more functionality. And hopefully what this means is better best practice templates that maybe you can take advantage of, right? Maybe this is an opportunity for you to be able to pull in, even more ways to measure, or even more, data that you can be able to share out. So yeah, the overall goal here is just to make sure that we are making this better and easier for you long term.
Awesome. That's great. And that actually leads me to one of the questions I saw. You just mentioned best practices. So I was going through and I remember seeing one that somebody asked about that more specifically. And they'd said, I work with several other nonprofits and government agencies as part of a community violence intervention collaboration using Bonterra today. And it would be great to share data and best practices more easily. So how can I stay up to date as these updates roll out? Like, where will we learn this information as it comes through?
Yes. Well, hopefully you voted yes to attending the upcoming roadmap webinar. That'll be a great place to be able to start listening in. But yeah, we're going to be rolling these out even more over time, right? I love being able to hear groups that are, working more in collaboratives, right? That want to be able to share data more. And I hear that even, more among organizations I speak to, right? We're moving out of kind of this single player mode of just focus on your organization. We're in a multiplayer world, right? There's even more connectivity that has to happen either between collaboratives, between communities, between funders, between, all of your donors, right? Everybody wants to be able to, share even more information. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to be able to build on. So I'm not going to share, again, individual features today. That would give away too much of what we're going to talk about in our roadmap webinar, but absolutely make sure to join into that one. And make sure to check out all of our future webinars and all of our future roadmaps, right? There's going to be a lot more interesting things happening that we want to be able to build towards. And I think that that is a really great use case down that path.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Definitely encourage you all to keep an eye out for those. This is really just kind of the tip of the iceberg with this vision, and we really look forward to continuing to share more insights with you all. And I wanted to thank Tom and Scott both for your time today. We've got your questions saved if we didn't get to them, but I know Scott wanted to cover some closing remarks, so I want to make sure we've got time and space for that. But thank you all so much for the questions you submitted. We have them saved. We'll take note of those and keep an eye out on the follow-up for the recording of this session and previous ones. I'll personally thank all of you for your engagement and participation in these both today. And if you're able to come to our previous two, it's been a pleasure seeing you all online with us here these past few days. So thank you so much, Scott, Tom, and everybody here. And Scott, I'll let you close us out.
Yep, I just echo Amanda's thanks. We appreciate you spending the time with us today. Look, in many ways, we sort of see this as the beginning of Bonterra, establishing these visions, and then we want to take you down on the journey where the products are going. We're going to be introducing next year a number of ways for you to collaborate with us directly, from product councils to advisory boards to user events. And we're looking forward to getting all that stuff rolled out, increase the conversation, increase the feedback. We're here to solve your problems, and all of the feedback you gave today and are going to be giving in the future are going to be super helpful as we do that. So again, thanks for the time, and looking forward to working on your behalf in 2024.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Keep doing the greatest good there is out there. We really appreciate all of your hard work and look forward to continuing to work with you. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Bye.